It's just gone 8 o'clock. A very good morning to you. Time for your main news bulletin on sign language. With us at the moment is Nonhlanhla Nyovane. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has dispatched army personnel to the areas affected by yesterday's earthquake. The quake that struck the central part of Japan caused numerous casualties and extensive damage. 30 people have died and many others are trapped under the rubble in several towns. Hundreds of buildings have collapsed and burned down. Now, for more on the quake, we cross to SABC News correspondent Chris Gilbert. Chris, a very good morning to you. Speak to us about what you've seen on the ground.
Oh, well, good afternoon from Tokyo. Look, it has been kind of a tale of two worlds at the moment. Here in Tokyo, it may seem as life as usual starting the new year, just as any other year. But on the other side of Honshu, Japan's main island, there is widespread devastation. That is how the Prime Minister has described it. And he's also described it as a battle against time to figure out the extent of the situation. Many roads in the isolated region of the Noto peninsula where this earthquake took place are either damaged or blocked by landslides. It's very hard to get access into the remote areas and try and find people who may be stuck in their homes under collapsed buildings, or even just evaluate the extent of how many people may be in that situation. That is what is facing the government at the moment. They are working directly with local officials throughout Tuesday to try and work together to reach these people and rescue them as quickly as possible so that death toll doesn't go higher.
How much of the badly and damaged roads are hindering rescue efforts?
Oh, it's absolutely significant. People can't get in, people can't get out. You mentioned fires. That was in the city of Wajima of about 28,000 people on Monday. That spread very quickly due to the dry conditions, and fire personnel could not reach that due to how badly the roads have been affected. Japan's very famous for the bullet train, the high-speed train. 1,500 people were trapped on that overnight because the lines have been affected and need to be evaluated. That's begun running again throughout Tuesday. But at the moment, really, apart from those who absolutely need to, no one can get in or out of many parts of that region. There's a university in a town there called Suzu, and in a parking lot of that university, people have spelled out SOS on the car park. They're trapped in the university. There's a question for the government at the moment about just how many people are in that situation of being trapped, not being able to get in, not being able to get out.
Mm-hmm. And how bad is the communication as well? Because that's also might be a hindrance for government to get through and speak to the people and get the message across.
Yeah, the Prime Minister has assigned himself as a head of a task force, a special task force aimed at, first of all, evaluating the extent of the damage, and then secondly, remedying it and saving lives. And so he says that task force is dealing directly with local officials. That is their strategy of targeting local officials and local towns who have that local information and working with people inside the area to really target and pinpoint their priorities. But there is poor communication across many towns. Local Wi-Fi and data service providers have been offering free data to people in the region so they can communicate with people. It was, as very tense for us in Tokyo. We have loved ones in that part of the country as well, and it was a very anxious wait for us to hear from them. But those in the major cities don't seem to be too badly disrupted in the region. It is really that Noto peninsula, that small isolated region, which has been most directly impacted.
And what do we know about the shelters? We know there are people that have spent the night in shelters to get away from the earthquake.
Yeah, this is absolutely paramount and pertinent for Japan's response to these natural disasters, is to really emphasize to, especially when there's a tsunami warning, to move away from the ocean, to go to the evacuation shelters. These are usually school gymnasiums, city halls, and the like. And reports from the initial response on Monday was that these evacuation centers did gradually fill up over the hours following the earthquake. It's been a very cold night for many people. There are about 500 trapped in the airport. There are people who are isolated and now stuck in these evacuation centers. Others in bigger cities like Kanazawa, have told me that they went there to the evacuation center for a couple of hours and then returned home when they felt like it was safe. But the government is urging people to remain vigilant because there is always the threat of aftershocks. And they really want people to not necessarily return, the message is, to buildings which may have been weakened or damaged in case, these earthquakes are not over yet and more damage may be caused.
All right, SABC News correspondent Chris Gilbert speaking to us out of Tokyo after that devastating earthquake in Japan.